Today's movie is about a bearded detective who is known as the successor of Sherlock Holmes. To see how smart he is, please watch today's recap. The movie begins in 1947 in Venice, Italy. This old man with a mustache is the famous Detective Poirot. He has a habit of being meticulous to every millimeter even though he is a genius at solving cases. A retired former policeman has become Poirot's bodyguard. Every day, there is a long line of people lining up to ask him to solve cases. One day, the bodyguard comes to inform Poirot that a friend is coming to visit. It is a female novelist who specializes in writing novels about him. She said that her 3 recent novels had been disastrous failures. So this time she wanted to ask Poirot to come back so she could write about a difficult case. Then she invited the detective to attend a Halloween party at an ancient castle. And added a bonus of a séance with a famous psychic. In short, it was a séance. The writer was not joking about psychics. If Poirot went there, he might believe it. That night Poirot went to the ancient castle as promised. Outside, the children were eagerly awaiting the Halloween party. But waiting for them was a late-night ghost storytelling program. It was a bit creepy because a long time ago, this castle used to be an orphanage during the war, when an epidemic broke out and the children were locked up by the doctors and left to starve. The children fought each other until their last breath. That is why the mark of revenge is the hidden terror in this castle. After listening to the story, the detective muttered to himself, "Isn't that too scary?" Finally, the castle door was opened. The Halloween party officially began here. The host of the party was Mrs. Rowena, a famous opera singer in this country. However, Poirot wondered why a famous person like her was in such a dilapidated place. Then the writer revealed that Mrs. Rowena hired a shaman to summon the spirit of her daughter, who was said to have been so disturbed by the ghost in this castle that she became mentally ill and jumped off the building to commit suicide. At the same time, the shaman also arrived with a strange mask. As soon as she met the homeowner, she took off the mask and started to talk nonsense. Then the novelist also introduced the shaman to Poirot. Here, the two had an unrivaled banter while the psychic was proud of his ability to talk to the dead, while the detective only believed in justice and logical science. As soon as he finished speaking, the chandelier next to him suddenly fell down and the shaman had the chance to show off. The Halloween party ended. Everyone left except those who attended the séance ceremony. The invited character this time was Alicia, the beautiful daughter who grew up in the boundless love of her mother. Then one day the daughter fell in love with a handsome man, who was her personal chef. Their love did not last long when the young girl began to encounter ghosts in the castle, making her mentally worse and weaker. One day Alicia said that she saw the children calling her. That night the young girl officially lost her life. Even more horrifying was the mark of revenge imprinted on the unfortunate girl's back. The housekeeper also said that the furniture in the room had been kept in the same place since the young mistress passed away. Outside, a storm was raging. Inside, the guests were all gathered in a room. The medium was busy preparing for the séance. The people present here included the novelist, Poirot and his bodyguard, the lady of the castle Rowena and her housekeeper, Miss Alicia's fiancé, the doctor and his son Leopold, and finally the medium and her assistant. Poirot, with his detective intuition, always observed the people present. The medium told the boy to go out and play, and Leopold replied clearly that he also wanted to see Miss Alicia. Then the medium also began the ritual with the typewriter in the corner of the room, far away from the psychic's reach. The medium began to mumble strange incantations that made the writer shiver. Suddenly the medium's finger pointed at the typewriter. The letter Y was typed, making everyone stunned and scared. But Detective Poirot was still here. He was angry and wanted to expose the medium's trick. When the medium called Alicia's name, the letter A appeared. She continued to ask if anyone had heard Alicia. At this time, the letter Y was typed down, which meant yes. At the climax, the detective turned on the light to expose the medium's trick. He went to the chimney and pulled out a person who was hiding, who turned out to be the assistant's brother. Poirot held up a remote control device. The detective said that he had noticed a man's footprints around the fireplace, and the lock had scratches indicating that it had been broken. Suddenly her chair spun around. Her body began to twist in pain. She strangled herself and screamed in Alicia's voice, which stunned Rowena because it was her daughter's voice. Then the shaman asked Rowena why Rowena abandoned Alicia, said that the girl did not jump off the bed but someone murdered her. Then the damn chair spun again, not knowing if it was because the shaman was dizzy or the ghost was screaming. At this moment, the balcony door was blown open and the typewriter typed the word M. An eerie silence enveloped the castle. The detective also went out to the balcony to check but still had no explanation, while everyone wanted to change clothes, thinking that it was Alicia's ghost coming back to claim their lives. After the séance ended, the doctor examined the shaman and said that she was still healthy. Meanwhile, the novelist proudly said that the next works would be very attractive because even the famous detective Poirot could not do anything. Hearing that, he was even more determined to unveil this play. Then Poirot went to chat with the medium. She was proud of her job as the one who shouldered the mission of soothing the pain of the living by helping them practice the spiritual practices of the deceased. These things accidentally touched the heart of the detective, who had lost faith in the devastating consequences of war. While the detective was thinking, the medium suddenly put on a mask and put her cloak on him. Then smiled strangely and left. The clock had already struck 12 o'clock at night. Poirot, now in the medium's cosplay, came across a basin of water and plump apples. He lifted the mask up and bowed his head to drink a few sips of cool water. But at this moment someone attacked and pushed the detective's head into the water. At this moment, the bodyguard ran in just in time to successfully save his life. While piecing together everything that had just happened, the detective suddenly remembered that the clothes he was wearing belonged to the shaman. At this moment, the two heard a scream and someone fell, crashing straight into the statue below. When everyone ran over, it was too late. It turned out that the murdered person was the shaman. The scene became even more horrifying as the storm outside became more and more intense. The owner then made Poirot a cup of honey tea to help him calm down after the sudden attack. When the bodyguard went straight to where the phone was hidden to call for help. This small detail did not escape the detective's sharp eyes. The bodyguard said that help could only approach the castle after the storm because moving between the canals was impossible at this time. This made everyone more confused and they began to criticize and suspect each other. At this point, the Holland brothers revealed the identity of the medium. It turned out that she had previously been a nurse in an asylum, which made everyone think of the ghost children's revenge on the nurse. They believed even more blindly in this haunted castle. Seeing this, Poirot locked all the doors and declared that everyone present could be a suspect. Then Poirot sent his bodyguards to report the case to the police. Without delay, the detective began to question everyone one by one. First, the owner of this castle, Mrs. Rowena, said that she had been in the concert hall before midnight. The detective asks her to take him to the terrace. It is Rowena's favorite garden. But since losing her daughter, she has abandoned everything and the bees that produce honey have gone to waste, including her own singing career. Poirot questions Rowena about inviting the medium here to perform the ceremony. She says that the medium was the one who initiated the contact. The next person to be questioned is the housekeeper. She is a superstitious person who believes that this castle is cursed. The housekeeper also says that she was with the mistress in the concert hall when the murder occurred. Poirot asks the housekeeper if she is sure that the mistress entered the concert hall at midnight. And she is sure because she looked at her watch when the mistress entered the room. The detective then asks the housekeeper to clarify her background. Before becoming the mistress's housekeeper, she was a nun. Suddenly Poirot hears ghostly sounds while the housekeeper sits there and doesn't hear anything. And he sees the water forming the letter M just like on the typewriter before. When he goes to check, he doesn't see any water there. The detective realizes he is having a strange hallucination. Then he goes to question the doctor who is examining the medium's body and finds that she also has the mark of revenge on her body. The detective then discovers that her watch stops at 12:05, something that seems simple but the doctor missed. Suddenly the doctor screams angrily and waves his arms and legs, causing his son to speak up to calm his father. It turns out that the doctor suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder after witnessing countless war victims in a Nazi concentration camp, causing him to give up his medical career until the lady of the castle hired him to treat Miss Alicia. Poirot went to the toilet to wash his face but turned it all the way up but no water came out. And he saw a creepy figure in the mirror. He turned his head around and saw nothing. And the water started to come out. But it was hot. He continued to interview the boy Leopold. Although he was still young, the boy showed surprising maturity. He understood almost everything about his father's job as a doctor. He even controlled his father's psychosis. The boy said that he was with his father in the kitchen at the time of the murder. Not only that, he also revealed that he often talked to the ghosts in this castle, even considered them his friends. At this time, the hallucinations made Poirot lose his composure when solving the case. He continued to interview the Holland brothers, and very quickly discovered their fake passports. The two brothers claimed that they were refugees from Romania, and they confessed that they had helped the medium set up the whole trick in those seances. All they did was to earn some money to settle in America. At this moment, the bodyguard announced that the phone was disconnected, so they could not report it to the police. At this moment, the detective caught a shadow passing by with a strange voice. When he followed it, he saw Alicia when she was a child, exactly like the picture he saw in the room. He even talked to Alicia and as soon as he asked her who pushed the shaman down the statue. The shaman appeared and Alicia disappeared. At that moment, everyone heard a strange sound and ran to the castle courtyard. The sound came from below. They went down to the basement together to explore. There, evidence of war crimes appeared before their eyes, which devastated the doctor, causing him to have another psychotic episode. He attacked Maxime, who was trying to calm him down. Fortunately, his son was able to calm his father down in time. The guard also discovered that the strange noises were the waves caused by the storm. After taking the sedative, the doctor mumbled something about bees to Poirot. Mrs. Rowena then locked the door and gave the only key to the detective. He continued to interview his fiancée Maxime. Clearly the M was referring to the young man's name. Hearing what the detective just said, the young man got so excited that he accidentally cut his hand. The writer saw a jar of honey nearby and told him to apply it to the wound to disinfect it. Maxime lifted his hand to taste it and found the honey had a strange taste. Then the young man revealed that he loved Alicia very much. It was Alicia's mother who forbade their love, forcing Alicia to give up her engagement with Maxime, which showed that Maxime could not have received the invitation from Mrs. Rowena, meaning that someone had sent this invitation to him. The last person was the detective's bodyguard. Poirot knew that he had been to this castle because the bodyguard knew where the phone was hidden. More surprisingly, Poirot also knew that the last time he was a police officer was the night of Miss Alicia's murder. At the same time, the detective also exposed the plan of the three people: the novelist, the bodyguard and the shaman. The trance scene had been staged by them, and information about Alicia's murder had been provided to the shaman. It turned out that their every move had not escaped the sharp eyes of the talented detective. While everyone was focused on the psychic, the writer had secretly carried out a very elaborate plan to make the detective believe in the spiritual world. However, that was not enough for this genius detective. Poirot also knew that their motive was that the psychic would become famous after this event. As for the novelist, she would have a hot topic. The bodyguard simply wanted money to support his struggling family. After being exposed, the novelist became angry and shouted that she was the one who built the detective's reputation. So she thought she could use his name to bring back her glory through this plan. But in the end, she denied that she was the murderer of the psychic. At this moment, the housekeeper came in and said that something was wrong with the doctor. As soon as the detective opened the door, the doctor had already passed away. Everyone believed that this was done by the devil. Obviously, this could not be done by humans when the key was in the detective's hand. At this time, Poirot also hesitated a bit. Was there a ghost in this castle? The detective once again went into Alicia's room. When he looked in the mirror, he saw Alicia's shadow in it, which startled him and broke the mirror, which caused the bird to fly up and spill the tea on the table. Thanks to that, Poirot discovered the photo of his fiancée. As if it were a premonition, he suddenly realized something. The detective called everyone out to the hallway to say that thanks to the doctor's third murder, he was able to solve all the previous mysteries. Poirot specifically named the culprit behind everything as Mrs. Rowena, a mother who loved her child so much that she did not want to lose her daughter. The garden only had one type of flower and it was used to feed the bees for honey. The key was that this flower contained a hallucinogenic substance. The detective himself was poisoned with a cup of honey tea from the mistress, which explained all the ghostly hallucinations he had to witness all night. The mother regularly fed Alicia that honey to make her mentally weak daughter unable to reunite with her fiancé Maxime. That meant her daughter was not possessed by a demon but was poisoned by the loving mother herself. One day, the housekeeper took over the mother's care, and Miss Alicia suffered a bout of pain from the prolonged poisoning. Therefore, the housekeeper accidentally put double the amount of honey in the tea, causing her young master to die before she could even yawn. When she learned that her little daughter had left the mortal world, the mother staged her daughter's death as a result of spiritual demonic forces. Furthermore, Rowena was a legendary singer, so how could she not have the money to renovate this old castle? There was only one reason for this. She had been blackmailed to the point of exhaustion. It was someone who knew the truth, and when she could no longer pay, she was forced to eliminate the blackmailer. Her two suspects were the psychic and the doctor. She had initially mistaken Poirot for the psychic, so she changed her target and killed the real psychic immediately afterwards. The clock in the concert hall had been tampered with, so the housekeeper saw her mistress with her at midnight. As for the doctor, Rowena did not directly take action, but use his son to threaten him. The mentally disturbed father could only follow the threat. When people kept criticizing her, she ran to the roof. When the detective arrived in a flash of lightning, he saw Alicia's image floating behind her, and he could not know whether the death of the blindly loving mother was really caused by spiritual forces or not. The next morning, the police received the remaining cases of the three murders. And the boy Leopold admitted that he was the blackmailer because his father had lost his ability to work. The boy learned the truth from his father's autopsy notes. But the detective did not blame this smart but pitiful boy. He allowed the housekeeper to adopt Leopold. He asked the boy to use the remaining money to buy 2 tickets for the Holland brothers to return to America with them. Before leaving, the boy asked him, the mysterious force that helped him solve the case. Did he hear Alicia? This unanswered question seems to show Poirot, who is still stuck between the boundary of spirituality and logical science. But anyway, it gives the talented detective a new source of motivation, which is the belief in justice. Through that, Poirot continues his famous path of solving crimes. The movie ends here. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video and would love to see more from this channel, please give a like and a subscribe.